Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, back with my second card using the Poppy Perfection stamp set that comes in Simon Says Stamps April 2023 card kit. I had done an unboxing of the kit and made a clean and simple card, and I'll link to that video at the end of this one if you missed it. I got my hands on the Wafer die set, which I was like, must have. Plus I had ideas, many ideas for this set. So I started off with some smooth white cardstock from Simon, have it in my MISTI, and then I chose several of the images from the set, lined them up on the cardstock, going to ink them up and stamp them. And then I'm going to ink it up and stamp it a second time to get a good impression. And I didn't realize while I was doing it that I didn't have it like the cardstock like properly in the corner of my MISTI. So when I stamp it the second time, I mess it up. But cardstock has two sides, so I am just going to flip it over and repeat. This time making sure to stamp it properly. So inking it up with Simon's Intense Black ink, a good alcohol marker friendly ink. And after these are stamped properly, I'm just going to use my Spectrum Noir TriBlend brush markers. I only used 3 markers to do all the coloring. And this time I went with purple because purple poppies are gorgeous. Poppies in general, I love poppies. I don't know what it is about them. I think they're such a pretty flower. So I'm using the hydrangea blend for the actual like petals and doing my same old darkest to lightest. It's just what works for me right this moment. This is real time coloring, and then I'm going to super speed it up so that we're not sitting here all day. These honestly didn't take that long to color, really. They look more involved, I think, just because of the detail of the images, but actually coloring them in didn't take very long at all. It was just, yeah, I did one to see what I thought, like with this specific little color combo, and I was like, yep, works for me. So then I went along and did the other blooms and little buds. Off camera, I had stamped the bud and a couple more leaves onto just another scrap of the same white cardstock, so I'd have extras because I wanted a couple on the outside and then one on the inside because, you know, I got to finish off the inside. And yeah, love it. Like I said, I don't know what it is. There's something, you guys know, large florals. I'm all for it. If a stamp set has large florals in it, I'm like, yes. But again, poppies, I love them. I really do. And I love the kit. I'm going to use other elements from the kit as well, but I'll get to that in a second. So I did the flower centers with browns, and then I used they call it the dull green blend for the greenery. And same thing, it's going to be in darkest to lightest. Sorry, my phone's like going off 20 million times, even though I have focus turned on, so it doesn't. But of course it goes off as soon as you start doing a voiceover. Anyway. While I was doing all this, I was like, do I want to add like my white gel pen highlights, etc.? I couldn't make up my mind. And then I decided not to do white gel pen highlights. Instead, I was like, oh, I'll go with splatter. So before I even die cut, I am just going to put these right in my splat box, and I'm going to do my Ranger Perfect Pearl splatter to give me my shimmer, and then also a little bit of white gouache just to give it that little bit extra. So I just use my little plastic palette. I stick a little bit of the white gouache on there, and then I take a little bit of the Ranger Perfect Pearl powder. Like I always say, Ranger Perfect Pearl powder has a binder mixed in with it that's activated with water, so you don't need to do anything special to it. Just add some water. You can paint with it, do all kinds of different techniques, everything. I 99.9% of the time just use it for splatter because it's beautiful. Actually, no, that's a lie. I've shown in recent videos, I mix it with water in a little mini mister, and I'll use that and like spray entire backgrounds, etc. But technically the same thing. So anyway, added my splatter with my little fan brush, let that dry. Once it was dry, I am going to die cut all of these images with the coordinating wafer dies. So glad I got my hands on the wafer die set, because I didn't even realize there's little wafer dies for the like little oval wafer dies, which I'll use in a minute for like the smaller sentiments in the set too, plus the wafer dies for the actual like scripty fonts. Love it. Love it. Again, I've said this a million times. If there is a coordinating wafer die set, I'm all for it. Anything that, keeps me from having to fussy cut. So for the sentiments, I chose a couple from the set, and I'm going to heat emboss one of them onto, I have a scrap of slate gray cardstock. You get a sheet of that in the kit. And then I took just a little scrap of white cardstock. That's where I stamped the little sending word, and I stamped that with Simon's Orchid Positively Saturated ink. And then with the slate gray cardstock, I used my anti-static powder tool, inked up the Happy Thoughts sentiment with clear embossing ink, stamped that. Then I coated it with Simon's Detail White embossing powder. Then I'm going to melt that with my heat tool. Once that's cooled off for a few seconds, I wipe off all of that anti-static powder with just like one of my microfiber cloths, and then use the coordinating wafer dies to die cut everything. And I just tape those into place with washi tape so that they don't shift when I run them through my die cut machine. And there's one of the little ovals for the companion sentiments, I guess we'd call them. Love it. I also used some pattern paper. I chose one of the ones from the kit and trimmed that down. And one of the overlays, these are, you get a whole pack of them in the kit. They're from the Tim Holtz Idea-ology like spring release. And I was raving about these when I unboxed the kit. And yeah, I actually used one. Honestly, I want to hoard them. They're gorgeous. I love them. So one of the fun things with those overlays is you could totally, like this could totally have been made into a shaker card. I thought about it, but I just wasn't in the mood. So instead, I took the overlay. They're slightly too wide to run through my little Xyron like 3-inch machine, because that's what I was going to do originally, was just run it through my Xyron, because that would apply adhesive across the entire back, and then I could just press it down, be done. It didn't fit. I would have to like hunt down. I have the bigger Xyron machine, which would work perfectly. I'm just not exactly sure where I put it. So instead, get a little creative. No different than when I'm adhering like vellum items, where like certain products like vellum or these transparencies, etc., where you can see the adhesive. You just got to get creative with where you place it. So I adhered the poppies and greenery and whatnot with some of Simon's thin foam squares. And then on the back, behind all those parts, I just used Simon's Terrific tape. You could use liquid adhesive, but I'm not the biggest fan of using liquid adhesive with, acetate or vellum, those sorts of things. It's just, it can get messy. It can get a little finicky. Dry adhesive all the way. So put some Terrific tape, stuck that onto the pattern paper. And then I'm going to adhere the little sentiments with a combination of more little foam squares and a little bit of craft tacky glue. So those will be popped into place as well. And then once I get those adhered into place, my card base is just going to be a top folding A2 white note card. So 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I decided to just use that little strip of pattern paper that was left over when I trimmed it down for the front of the card. So I just stuck that on the inside, and then I'm going to adhere my remaining little die cut, flowers and greenery. And I decided not to add any sentiments, anything to the inside. I was like, ooh, this little like pattern paper and little images, more than enough. So adhered those into place. And then as a final bit of embellishment, I'm just using the little like confetti pack that also comes in the kit. Again, I'll have links to all of this that's available separately as well. You do not have to get the kit. Obviously, it's just a better deal when you get the kit. But if you want like just the stamp set, or like just this one thing caught your eye, etc., etc., I always link to everything that I possibly can that's available separately. So added a few of these kind of gold little confetti pieces as my bling. So kind of scattered those around the images. Once I was kind of happy with that placement, I'm going to just adhere those into place with craft tacky glue. I don't have a problem adhering things on top of transparencies, etc., especially when it's just small, tiny little embellishments like this. It's like the bulk of the adhesive. You know what I mean? The structure that I get a little more like, no, don't want to use liquid glue. So things like embellishments though, they're fine. So that finished off the card. It's got some shimmer. It's got that fun like transparency overlay, the pattern paper, the purple poppies. I really enjoyed making this, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. And as always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have a supply list. I'll link to all the supplies I used. I'll have a link at the end to the unboxing video, as well as a link to my playlist using these markers, because I've done quite a few videos so far. And thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!